Good day. Today was really filled with a deep conversation with my girlfriend Leslie. We really started getting serious talking about what the future holds for us. We've been together for about a year and a half, and it's that time to be thinking about possibly getting rings, possibly moving in together, possibly taking all these next steps in life. And she and I have both had pretty extraordinary lives. She's lived all over the world as a runway model. I've been a touring drummer. I've lived in 2 countries myself. So there's a lot of life there. And I think that both of us, if we wanted to, we really could continue adventuring in life as much as we wanted to. And I think it's a conscious choice I'll speak at least for myself, to say, okay, it's time for the next phase, the next step. And so it's a very tender time. It's a very special time for us. It's an opportunity to really slow down and really examine that core compatibility. Sometimes it's time for compromise. Sometimes it's time for just better understanding, and other times it's challenging and requires courage. Yet I think it's invaluable to say, like, okay, where might we not have full compatibility, and maybe in an unbridgeable kind of way. And we went there today. We went there today, and it was a very, very very special time. In a few minutes, I'm going to share with you the beautiful communication method that we followed that allowed us to both completely understand each other without getting into defensiveness or criticism or attacking, or either of us wanting to kind of like hole up, or, like the turtle, retreat into our shell, or get angry or run away or anything like that. I'll teach that to you in just a minute from now. A couple other updates from today. Later in the day, Leslie and I actually had a really great conversation about her forthcoming business. As you may know from yesterday's episode, she's starting a new business, and it's her first time as a professional full-time entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for 15 years, so she and I are really learning a lot together. It's been 15 years since I started my business, and I think I have a lot of wisdom to offer, and at the same time, it's really, really powerful. As the expression goes, the teacher learns as much as the student. It's tonight's Sunday night, and so I also, together, Leslie and I, every week we talk to my mom. I'm in Austin, Texas here. My mom's in Canada, back in my home city. And so we were able to stay connected despite being in different time zones and different countries, by simply keeping that ritual. So that was really, really special. And then to wrap up the evening here, Leslie's business is videography. And so she's been working on a video project actually for me, an interview that I did with a really talented entrepreneur named Jana. And so we were reviewing the work Leslie had done, and it was good. She's done some great work. So that was really, really cool to see. So let's dive in. Let's dive into today's lesson, which is all about conscious listening or reflective listening. The first thing that I want to talk about is that oftentimes we are listening to respond. We're listening so that we can prepare our response. That's a very different way to listen than to listen to understand. When we're listening to respond, we might only hear the first few bits, and then in our mental RAM, we're loaded with like, okay, I know what my answer is. I'm just waiting for my turn to speak. Is the other person stopped? Have they finished moving their lips? Yes or no? No. Yes. Okay, go, right? And that is very different than actually wanting to cross the bridge into the other person's world. And oftentimes in sensitive situations, and I'd say especially in conflict, it's understanding the other person that's ultimately going to create the right connection for an ultimate resolution to be found. As long as you've got two people defending, it's never going to get anywhere. So, so the very first part, and let's pop down to my iPad, is to take a look at how we listen. So in the method we're talking about here, we want to be listening for what is the other person's emotion, and then what is the content of what they're sharing. And we are going to commit ourselves to just listening, not responding in any way, shape, or form, even if we feel like what the other person is saying unfair, or we feel like it's an attack, or we feel like it's inaccurate. We're not going to correct them. We're simply going to hold space and mirror back what we heard. So let's say one of my concerns, let's say I'm talking to my mom, is, hey mom, I'm sad about how far apart we are. So the emotion in that sentence is I'm sad. The content is because of how far we are apart. So if she were to mirror that back to me, she would just say, yeah, honey, I'm hearing that you're feeling sad that we're so far apart. And by sticking with this pattern, what you're going to see happen is the person who's speaking, in this case, it was Leslie and I all day, is going to share. And then when you mirror back, the other person is going to actually go, yeah, and they'll go to the next level. And you're going to stick with mirroring, and then they'll go, yeah, that is right. Yeah. That is what I think. And they'll go deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper. And pretty soon they're just going to hit like the bottom of the pool. And you'll notice, because they'll kind of get quiet. They'll be like, yeah. And that's when you know you've arrived. Now, there could be some, and this is one of my favorite parts with this method, is as the listener, you don't have to be an expert on anything, because all you're doing is just listening and saying back what you heard. And secondly, even if you get it wrong, the other person will let you know what you missed. And not from a place of criticism or, being like disappointed in you, but rather they'll just let you know, no, that's not really what I mean. What I mean is this. And that gives you another opportunity. And if you need a third and a fourth and fifth opportunity until you do properly understand their emotion and their content, it's perfect. It simplifies listening and communication so much. So you stick with that. You stick with the emotion plus content until the other person feels more or less like their main point has been created. And you might even say, on a scale of 0 to 10, how much would you say that I understand you? And if a person is anything less than 10, you can say, what did I miss that would take this to a 10, right? And they can let you know that, oh, you didn't quite understand this part or that part. Now, one of the challenges with following this pattern of emotion plus content is most of us growing up, we had maybe like 5 emotion words. I'm sad, I'm mad, I'm glad, this is good, this is bad. And that's a good starting point. I would say, though, that it's so much richer when we can start building our emotional vocabulary. And I'm not saying you got to sit here and do some intensive study, but, to simply grab grab ChatGPT and just print out what are the list of the most common emotion words I could use when doing reflective listening. Put in a prompt, something like that. And words that you're going to find are words like excited, scared, worried, right? Excited, scared, worried, inspired, jealous, doubtful, insecure, confused, distant. Those kinds of words are going to give you such a next level kind of mirroring that the other person is going to really feel, wow, like you really, really got me. From my own personal experience, what I can also say is that as the listener, when I push myself harder to understand exactly what the other person is trying to say, by me having that little bit of struggle to get it right, what is the emotion and what is the content, I actually find that as I'm struggling with that, even if I'm slowing down the conversation a little bit, I make connections like, oh, that's what they mean. And like legitimately for me, it helps me to go deeper. It helps me to understand more quickly. It helps me to really connect to that other person, which is awesome. So over time, you can develop your emotional vocabulary, which will then allow you to become that much better of a listener. So that is the first part of the method, emotion plus content. Now, there's something you really want to watch out for. These are called roadblocks. And these roadblocks are kind of like listening killers and are kind of like connection killers. And actually, oftentimes they can derail the entire communication and the whole thing breaks down. And specifically, they're called roadblocks. And you might be surprised what some of these to be avoided roadblocks are. Before I give you some examples, just imagine you're at a family reunion. Let's say you've had a bad day. Let's say a cousin comes up and says, "How you doing?" And you say, "Tough day today." And they slap you on the back and say, "Cheer up. Tomorrow's a fresh day." You're probably feeling like, yeah, great. You're not feeling like, "Oh, wow, like, thank you for listening," right? And so sometimes a roadblock can be very well intentioned. It's coming from a good place. Someone believes in you, someone cares about you, someone wants to see you be happy and feel fulfilled. And yet, unfortunately, despite their best intentions, what a roadblock does, remember how I just talked about how when you mirror, you allow a person to go down a layer, a layer, a layer, a layer, a layer until they touch the bottom of the pool. If you put a roadblock in there, that person doesn't go lower, lower, lower until they find the truth of what it is they really needed to share. And ultimately it blocks them from feeling heard too. So here's a couple more examples of roadblocks. So one, and this one I think is fairly obvious, is defending. This can be a tough one to avoid, especially if you're in a conflict and the person's saying, "Well, I didn't think that you were very thoughtful when you left the fridge door open today. Like, I've asked you like 5 times and it's just completely annoying to me. Like, please have some respect for how I want to, operate our kitchen," or something like that, right? If someone was coming at you with that, you might very naturally want to say, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on. That wasn't me." Or, "Well, you left the toilet seat up the other day," or, "You didn't take the garbage out," right? And now what do we have? We have what's actually called diatribe, where it's not dialogue, it's 2 monologues, and it's just getting worse and worse, where it turns into like speaking at someone rather than speaking with someone. And so defending can be one of the hardest roadblocks to avoid until you get some experience with it. But once you get some experience with it, you'll find it's actually relatively easy. Now, what I'll share that in my mind made roadblocks a lot easier to avoid is actually the philosophy behind this listening method. And the philosophy is that actually each person is the expert of their own lives. You know what's best for you. And really, if you have a grievance with me, or you have some challenge in your own life with yourself or someone else, instead of me giving you advice or encouragement, really probably what I could do to be even more helpful would be just to hold a safe space, kind of hold the walls of your life to the side for a few minutes and mirror back to you until you can find what that truth is for you. You can find what the core issue is, or what was in your blind spot, that subconscious thing that's been driving you subconsciously. And if I believe that ultimately every issue is about whoever's speaking, then even if someone comes at me with a criticism, "Tim, I thought you were such a jerk when you didn't close the door," right? I could hear that as criticism of me, or I could say in my head, "Okay, this is about the other person. Maybe I had a role to play, for sure. Maybe I had a contribution and I have an opportunity to look at that." The person's upset, though, is probably theirs, and it's probably about them ultimately, rather than it is like some absolute attack on me. And so if that's true, then even if someone is coming at me with some unwanted energy and a criticism, I actually can serve them because it is ultimately about them. Now, the content of what they have to say might be really valuable feedback for me. you know what, I should have closed the door. You know what, you're right. I did miss out on taking the trash out, right? So roadblocks are something to just start to be aware of. And basically the 80-20 here is anytime you want to break away from just mirroring, that's a sign that you're on a roadblock. Even if you don't know which one it is, it's a sign you're on a roadblock, and like, hold your emotion in and stay rigorous to content plus emotion. Basically 100% of the time that I've had that discipline, I've been very glad that I did, because 2 shares later, as I continued to mirror back 2, 3 more times, the other person said, you know what, actually, I'm sorry. I'm just being a jerk today. I'm tired. I was up late at night, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so let's look at a couple more examples of roadblocks. Giving advice is actually a roadblock. As well-intentioned as it might be, it's actually a roadblock. Defending, we already talked about. Encouraging can actually be a roadblock. Making jokes can be a roadblock. It can actually rob a tender moment from a really, really great connection point, a really, really great breakthrough. Platitudes, this too shall pass. Soapboxing, going on and on and on about, your view on something, trying to explain something to the speaker, all roadblocks. Now, I think, I wouldn't blame you right now if you're listening to this and you're going like, are you telling me, Tim, I need to mirror all the time and avoid roadblocks all the time? I'm not. In fact, the only time that I'll drop into this method of listening is when there's something that's important to a person's head or to a person's heart. So if I can tell someone has an emotional share, that's when the gear flips for me. Ooh, this person's spicy today, or they're sad, or they're inspired. Time to flip into holding space. And it does apply when people are feeling really upbeat too. If someone's like bounces through the door and I can tell they've had a great day, and I say, hey, how's your day been? And they say, oh my God, I'm so excited. And it's like, great. Yeah, you're feeling excited. Would you be willing to tell me more? And they're like, yeah, I got a promotion at work today, or I landed a big client, or, my test results came back really, really good. And so like, how would I mirror that? I'd say something like, wow, you're really satisfied that you aced the exam and you're feeling really proud too. And the person goes, yeah. And guess what? Now they get to go to the next level. And they might say like, yeah, it's in math. And I've always struggled with math. Oh, wow, yes, this feels like a really big breakthrough for you academically. Like, this is something that maybe you wondered if it would ever be possible for you. And the person goes, yeah. Right? And so you allow them you just walk in their world. Now, if someone is not sharing something that's really important, in their heart, it's not like important details from their head, like this happened, that happened, and that happened, and like it's critical that we get this right. Like if something is not emotionally important, or it's kind of like mentally, psychologically, cognitively important, I'm not going to mirror it back, right? If someone's like, hey, what's the time? I'm not going to be like, oh, so I hear that you're feeling curious about what time it is. Like, no. Obviously, that's not like a emotionally or psychologically like kind of like charged question, right? So that leads us to our third and final piece of this method, at least this version of the method. There's always more layers to anything. And that is the magic of open-ended questions. So a closed-ended question is anything that has a closed-ended answer. Like saying, do you like this? That's a yes or no answer. How many siblings do you have? 2. And it just kind of ends the conversation, right? So an open-ended question is going to be something that leaves a wide open ranges of different ways a person could answer. So for example, instead of saying, do you like this, which is a yes or no, I could tweak my question just a little bit and say, what do you think about this? Do you see how that's no longer a yes or no answer? That's a, well, I think it's exciting. I think that it's a inspiring new way to do this project, right? A really good catch-all that I've used many times as an open-ended question is, can you say more? Simply, I guess technically that's a closed-ended question because a person could say yes or no to can you say more? I would say the spirit of it, though, it comes out as hey, tell me more. So maybe that's technically the correct is tell me more. If it's a grievance or something and someone is dissatisfied, I might ask something like, hey, tell me more, or what causes your concern. And ultimately, what it's doing, the open-ended questions are, you're basically saying there are any number of doors you could walk through here, and you get to pick which one. Where a closed-ended question, there might be 10 doors here, but I want you to walk through this one. Are you happy or not? How many siblings do you have? What country are you from? What's your major? What's your job, right? Those are all closed-ended questions where actually the listener starts to dictate where we're going, rather than the listener holding space and being flexible and being willing to walk through the speaker's world. That's the power of what an open-ended question can do. Now, I did not come up with all of this. I learned this from an extraordinary individual named Dr. David Wolfe. So let's take a look at the screen here. This is his book. It's called Relationships That Work. This is the second edition. His name is Dr. David B. Wolfe. He does a workshop called The Foundational. And I've actually attended it 4 times over the last 15 years. And every single time I have, it's made me a better brother, a better boss, a better son, a better leader, a better board member. In one of the most dramatic examples, I'd sold something for $30,000 to a client, and they were really triggered and dissatisfied with something that happened, and they demanded a $30,000 refund. And all I did was exactly the 3 parts I shared with you today: mirrored back emotion plus content, avoided roadblocks, and then asked open-ended questions. And within 1 hour, I actually had saved the entire $30,000 sale. And that person, I ended up going on to have an extraordinary working relationship for years, to the point that, like, we've gone to lunch together many times here. So this 3-part piece, I can thank Dr. David Wolfe for. And if you've liked what you've learned here, I do recommend you check out his book. He goes into more detail. He's got some really cool visuals in there as well. And if you do want to participate in one of his workshops, he teaches his foundational course, which is an extension of this book and what I'm teaching here today. He teaches it literally all over the world. He's taught it in Switzerland and in India and in England and in Russia and in Canada and the United States. I actually paid to bring him to Austin, Texas here for him to deliver the foundational course this past June. And then I'm actually doing the same at the end of this month, so the end of January 2025. And every time I'm in that seminar room and I hear him talk about listening, my level goes higher and deeper. And everyone there walks out going like, wow, okay, that is next level. That's my lesson for you for today. So what are we looking forward to tomorrow? So tomorrow, it's back to it's normal work week. It's Monday. And Monday is a deep work day for me. I do not work. I don't have any meetings whatsoever on Mondays. And so I'm going to be working hard on actually updating one of our flagship courses over at my company, Great Assistant. In one of our programs, we actually show entrepreneurs and their assistants how to delegate calendar from entrepreneur to assistant. And so I'm going to be updating that course. I'm also going to be working on a possible speaking opportunity. I want to say more because it's really exciting. Might be one of the highest profile speaking opportunities I've ever had in my whole life. And I've spoken over 1,000 times in my life. I won't say anything now, but I will update you later. And then I actually, later in the week, I have a call with a sleep expert named Molly Eastman. I've joined her, one of her coaching programs to help me get my sleep under control, because it's been probably the weakest part of my health game for 25 years or something like that. Final item. If you are wanting to come to the upcoming Dr. Wolfe foundational course here in Austin, Texas, head to, and I'll give you the website right here. I'll show it, austingrowthseminar.com. So that's austingrowthseminar.com. You can see it on the screen right there. And the course is 3 days. That's a picture of Dr. Wolfe right there. January 31 through Feb 2 here in Austin. There's a beautiful tour of the venue. It is a stunning yoga retreat center in Texas Hill Country on the outskirts of Austin, Texas. So give that a look at austingrowthseminar.com. If you have any questions, at the very bottom is the FAQ section. For example, this is not religious, this is not ayahuasca, or any other intoxicant or medicine, or however you want to talk about that. You will not be asked to promote the training after you attend. There's a number of personal development courses out there where that's expected, and this is not one of them. So you can simply come in peace, have an incredible experience, and it is self-contained. That is the course. All right, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow.